Hello and welcome to Let's Age. I'm your host, Joe. If you like what I do, support me on Patreon. Spread around the links in the blurb. And today we are going to talk about the sad reality of American Horror Story Apocalypse. Last time I had a do and don't video that was trying to appeal to any sense of dignity and integrity that Ryan Murphy had left for the show. I don't think he'll actually do that though, so I decided to make a video talking about spoilers. Even though the series hasn't really started to air yet, here's some stuff that will inevitably, one or another, or maybe all of them, will turn out to be the case for American Horror Story Apocalypse. So, without wasting any more time, let's get started. What can we really expect in AHS Apocalypse? Well, first of all, stunt cameos that mean nothing, and will lead to nothing. Surely he's not going to get back all of those people that we loved before, and we know for a fact that he's not getting Jessica Lange back for more than one episode. So what it's going to be is probably a lot of cameos that add up to nothing, or things that are hinting at something, and of course inevitably have a disappointing outcome, so that we tuned in, but we regret doing that because he wanted us to tune in and didn't actually care if he gave us anything for it. And of course, you know there are going to be those guest stars that don't really amount to anything either, but are just there because people think, oh, so-and-so is on American Horror Story, I better tune in to see how stupid it is. Stevie Nicks, I'm looking at you. We also have non-committal returns that will lead to nothing, like the aforementioned Jessica Lange. Why even bring her back if all you're gonna do is get rid of her characters? It's meaningless. Don't do it. It'll be great to see her again, but not in something that is just gonna remind us every episode that passes that she's no longer on the show. And what a better show it was when she was, because even those crap scripts, she could give it her all and make them watchable. Really, at this point, I think we can probably all be completely certain that the great tragedy of American Horror Story Apocalypse is going to be the fact that Jessica Lange only returns for one episode, probably to get killed off, and Stevie Nicks returns for probably multiple, not two. Another thing we can probably look forward to is undoing or making trivial, or just ignoring, everything Fiona Good did, particularly the destruction of the witch hunters, which I am entirely certain either they're going to bring back, confuse in some way with the Antichrist, or something like that. That ties into another later point that I have about the Antichrist character, but I'm almost entirely certain that there's going to be some stupid misunderstanding that is fundamentally inane, and more it will lead to a point of a feeling that nothing Fiona did in Coven amounted to anything, probably because Cordelia is a giant idiot. So what else can we look forward to in Apocalypse? Probably a Miss Robichaud's Academy that's even more of a nightmare than it was in Coven. Oh, they'll find some way to mess it up. If the Venable character that Sarah Paulson is for some reason playing, in addition to her other two, is related to this school, are we having some sort of raffle to see who they'll accept in the school? Again, this touches on things later, but there's gonna be some way that they ruin the school even more than it was ruined in Coven, because at that point it wasn't a school. They didn't learn anything, and nobody actually observed them or did anything for them, with them, or to them, aside from subjecting them to things that they were woefully unprepared for because nobody bothered to ever teach them. And what else can we look forward to Apocalypse for providing us? Well, unquestionably, there'll be some sort of half-assed feminist thing or girl power thing that will be really embarrassingly handled and not at all empowering. Kind of like Coven. Because while it did have some strong female characters, pretty much everybody in Coven was an asshole. And I've talked about this before. In a lot of shows, most of the characters are assholes, but the entertaining shows are where they are funny assholes. And that's understandable. That's cool. That's fine. A lot of the performances were very good, but that's because the actors were generally good. The principal actors, anyway. There was some acting in Coven that really was not very good. And I will say this. Sarah Paulson as Cordelia did not have the best material to work with, and she has a range, which I will, again, cover later. And she's not the only one. The female characters in Coven were not only inconsistent most of the time, but they were really unpleasant most of the time. There are very few exceptions. There was also an inherent sexism in Coven in that basically every male character was a one-dimensional character. Pretty much all of the male characters in Coven can be broken down into either being focused on killing, eating, fucking, or being a victim of those things. Possibly the only male character that doesn't have that treatment is Frankenbro, who is basically dead from the beginning. And he doesn't actually get development in the series. Pretty much all of his development is backbuilding. In Coven, a lot of the characters are just unpleasant people, assholes, completely inconsistent people that chaotically change their entire personality at the drop of a hat because American Horror Story has no consistency, and they do shit like catfights, which really says a lot about it. What Coven did was not really in any way present strong female characters. It was just that it presented very flimsy male characters, had some funny asshole female characters, and basically just had a bunch of people being assholes to each other. It didn't ultimately matter what their biological sex or genders were. It didn't empower. Its message or attempt at a message failed because it was not coherent or cohesive enough or cogent enough to have an impact that would empower. And it's never a good idea to try and present something as empowering when really all it's doing is saying that one is better than the other because we're only actually bothering to build up one. It's like having a couple of groups competing for being actually written as people and only writing one of them and saying this is a victory. That's not really a good way to write that. That's not really a good way to approach that. So we can look forward to probably more of that because Ryan Murphy has not changed in Apocalypse. Segueing to that, I had said earlier about the Antichrist character being the token male. Well, they probably will put him at Miss Robichaud's Academy or something like that because they've got to bring this together. Or if they're in California or something like that, maybe they're doing a new witch school or something. Maybe they're just training. Who knows? Whatever. I totally could see them putting him in this group with all these young witches and being basically the token male, or one of the token males, who of course is going to be killing the other witches. Got to happen. Gonna happen. Seeing pictures of that homotastic actor, I can completely see that character being done in that way. But if I'm wrong, then I guess that boy can take his gay face and do whatever he wants with it. What else is coming in American Horror Story Apocalypse? Well, it's a downbeat ending. Since Brian Murphy's stupid enough to buy into the unfortunate misconception that horror has to be downbeat all the time and have a downbeat ending. This has become even more of a trend since the turn of the century, which sounds really dramatic to say, but it's true. Ever since 2000, people have harped more on the whole horror has to be downbeat and have a downbeat ending. Sorry, but that's not horror necessarily. It's not scary in and of itself just to have a downbeat ending. It doesn't really make it more horror. And as I've said before, most shows like this, including American Horror Story and Teen Wolf and Supernatural, these are not horror series. They are dark fantasy series with elements of horror. I'm not going to get into a finicky genre definition label thing, but please, stop trying to go downbeat endings when really it would be fine just to have a satisfying ending. Like, even though Murder House, as I keep coming back to because it is probably, narratively speaking, the best American Horror Story, it had a satisfying ending that was appropriate for what it was. Pretty much none of the other ones actually had a satisfying, appropriate ending for what they were. But you can bet that even if he intends for this one to reboot or end that first weirdly connected universe, it's going to be some stupid meaningless ending that is disappointing, unsatisfying, and unfulfilling. Moving on, what else are we going to have? Lots of Langdons, except the ones we actually want to see. We'd love to see Constance, but we're only going to see Jessica Lange for one episode and she's probably going to get written out. So who else do we get? Other people that we don't actually care about to play other Langdons and remind us that Jessica Lange isn't there. And yeah, I keep going on about this, but we know her cameo is probably going to be handled remarkably poorly. And to be honest, Joan Collins is probably going to be handled remarkably poorly. She's going to be wasted on a role that's totally beneath her. Evan Peters is going to be wasted on a role that's totally beneath him. Sarah Paulson is going to be there to feature prominently in probably her worst role to date, and she'll probably get fucked over again in her best role to date. By which I mean Cordelia will probably be all over it, and Billy will probably get fucked over again. Then there's a new role that will likely be an embarrassing overextension of her abilities, which are best when they are safely in her range and nowhere else. She can be a really good actress if she has a passion for the material, and she has good enough material and good enough direction. She has almost never had those things in American Horror Story. You can see that she's trying, and you can see that she has talent and ability, and you can see that she's probably a really nice person in real life. I am not down on the actor. However, there are some roles that are just not very good. And Billy was one of those characters I actually kind of liked. And of course, Hotel dicked her over, but then Hotel dicked everybody over. It was a piece of shit season. Maybe they could bring Billy back to Apocalypse and actually do something nice with her. It would be nice if they did that. Do I expect it? Absolutely not. We will get her featured in Cordelia Fox, which is her worst and probably least likable role in American Horror Story. And no, I'm not taking Cult into account because that was a garbage season. It doesn't even deserve my acknowledgement. What else is going to happen in Apocalypse? Marcy, the asshole real estate agent, will return, just what we didn't want, and somehow manage to survive the whole thing again. Yes, the world will be burning, but fucking Marcy will be there. Honestly, I'd prefer if they just brought the dog back, since Hotel even screwed over the dog, but all we had was Marcy's account that the dog died. Bring the dog back and have the dog kill Marcy. Just give me that one thing, please. And what else? Some sort of two worlds bullshit to really dodge the commitment issue. Will one world be destroyed? Who cares? Will it be the world of the dead that is this other world to completely avoid any sort of satisfying bringing characters back? Will it be some sort of satanic alternate universe? Will it matter by the end? No, not at all. Unless for some reason Ryan Murphy decides that new seasons are going to be in this satanic alternate reality or something. I don't know. It'll be something stupid. Mark my words. And last but not least of all, is Ryan Murphy going to try and reboot the American Horror Story universe that he shouldn't have connected? Maybe into a world that doesn't have all of its disconnected stories connected in stupid, unsatisfying, annoying ways? Because if that is the case, and if that is the main intent of this season, everything else is going to be secondary, and that is going to dominate everything that happens. It's going to be a disaster. I've seen this kind of crap happen in comic books, and comic books are generally the only place where this happens because it's the only place where it has to happen. It's the only place where you have really bad story intermingling connection stuff. They have to work out like this. Not to say that books don't have it, they just ignore it. See also Harry Potter. But if that is Murphy's intention, you can guarantee that pretty quickly on, everything is going to revolve around getting all of his ducks in a row so that he can basically reboot the universe. Everything else is going to be secondary. Everything else is going to be a waste of time. He's not going to care about the characters. The writing isn't going to be there, and it's going to be a huge donkey mess disappointment of a season. But we knew it was going to be that anyway. So are any of these things going to come to pass? Or are all of them going to come to pass? I guess we will see when the new season starts airing in less than a month. But thanks for spending time with me, and let's hope that it turns out remarkably better than expected. I'd love to see some of these people again, and I really hope that it will be a better story because Devil Child and witches, especially Myrtle, that sounds good to me. the fact that it's American Horror Story season doesn't sound so good to me. So I guess we'll find out when it happens. But thank you for spending time with me. Again, if you like what I do, support me on Patreon, follow me at social media, and spread the links around. I will see you next time for another video. You're welcome. Bye.